Um, as Helena is getting her presentation up, I will introduce her. So Helena Gonzales is the seed bank manager at Native Seed Search. She graduated from the University of Arizona with a bachelor's in plant science with a focus in genetics. She was born and raised in Tucson. She is Hopi and Navajo, and she has dedicated her life to crop conservation and research to preserve the diversity and the history of heirloom crops. She is the seed bank manager, as I mentioned, at Native Seeds Search, where she maintains the health of the seed bank collection and helps to share the seed. Everyone in Tucson and beyond loves Native Seed Search. It's like our favorite place. Um, so I will, once Elena gets her presentation up, she can get started. I'm going to put her email in the chat. Elena, do you need some assistance getting your presentation up?
I'm just adjusting my
There you
back.
are.
There we go. Okay. And let me see. Okay, let's see if that does that work?
It is coming on. There we go. Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
So you just want to throw that into presentation mode. Yep. All right. Welcome,
Okay.
Elena.
Hi. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Hi, I'm Helena Gonzales. I work at Native Seed Search. I'm here presenting saving and storing seeds. Um, so let's go ahead. There we go. So Native Seed Search is a nonprofit organization that stewards traditional seeds of the Greater Southwest. Our mission is to conserve and share seeds of the people of the desert Southwest in Mexico so that the arid adapted crops may benefit communities and nourish a changing world. The organization was started 40 years ago out of a desire to conserve culturally important agricultural seeds, to reconnect the seeds with their communities of origin, and to make the seeds widely available for their conservation. Native Seed Search exists thanks to the indigenous seed keepers that had these seeds for hundreds, thousands of years, working with them, planting them in the deserts. And today, Native Seed Search focuses on building partnerships with farmers, especially indigenous farmers here in the Southwest, and responsibly stewarding the seeds that we have and providing them to people who have historical and cultural connections to the seeds. So seeds are to many people many things, and seeds represent more than just the plants, but also community. And here we have a small survey that we took of people to put down what seeds represent at one of our events. And so they represent the future, stories, ceremonies, life. And we want to keep that in mind when stewarding seeds. Native Seed Search has over 1,800 different accessions, um, over 100 species of different crop plants and wild plants. The majority of these are corn, beans, and squash. More than 70% of the seeds are from native communities, and the collection represents the cultural heritage and farming knowledge of about 50 indigenous communities. More than half of these seeds are from Mexico as well. And we'll go into storing seeds after harvest. So seed saving starts with healthy seeds and healthy plants. Healthy plants makes good fruit, and good fruit make good seeds or pods. We want to make sure that we're saving seeds, starting with a healthy population, and saving those seeds and saving a healthy population from those seeds. The plants have to be in a large enough population so that the variety is maintained, and the genetic preservation is maintained of the seeds. The population of plants has to be large enough to prevent inbreeding depression. And we need to think forward when saving the seeds for preservation of them. And Seed Savers Exchange has this really nice seed saving guide that people can reference that's downloaded from their site. It shows the different crops, the different viability when growing, how many plants, viability of the seeds, how many plants to grow, how many plants to grow for variety maintenance, and how many plants is for genetic preservation. So that can be done with multiple years of seeds grown out, or instances like when communities come together and have the same varieties and put them together. It's as long as the seeds are from enough individuals, that's also part of the variety and genetic preservation. They also have a wonderful book called The Seed Garden. And it's a great reference for anybody wanting to learn more about each crop and uh, growing them out for seeds, and keeping in mind the different things like isolation distances. So isolation from different varieties and those numbers for genetic preservations. So harvesting seeds. Seeds have to be harvested at full maturity. So this is done when the fruit's fully ripe, when the pods are fully mature, which would mean the seeds are fully mature. That also means some of the crops need to dry on the plant to finish maturing and drying. Some that need to do that are corn, sunflower seeds, your peas and beans. You'll pick the dry pods for that, and okra. And cleaning the seeds is also an important step. Wet seeds, I'm sorry, processing seeds, seeds left with little bits of like leaf parts or chaff is what they're called, or sticks. They can harbor disease, or they can harbor moisture that can mold the seeds. So keeping them out can help keep the seeds a little bit more for seed saving, cleaner, free from risk of molding. It also makes it easier to see through the seeds if there's any pest problems or there's any broken seeds, and it makes it easier for seed sharing as well. The seeds are cleaned through threshing of dry seeds, which is shown on the left here with the kid stomping on the tarp. That releases the seeds from the pods. Screening, which is sifting through the seeds on mesh screens, which is the center photo there, and winnowing, which is pouring all the chaff and seed together in front of a fan. So the small little bits, the chaff, the leaves, and everything else that's in there will fly off, and the heavy seeds will fall right down in front of the fan. For wet seeded crops such as tomatoes and other squash, watermelon, the seeds are wet when you process them. Some need to be rinsed off, like watermelon. Some of them need to be fermented, like melons and tomatoes. So that's just letting it sit for a day or two in its own seeds and juice, so that the coating comes off of the seeds, and then they can be rinsed and dried. So seed drying. Proper seed drying is about time, and seed drying is to make sure that the seeds are ready for storage. It can be done on screens, trays, or fabric. It can be seeds can be placed in paper bags as well. Drying indoor racks, we have an example here, which is on the screens. Seeds can be laid out on a tarp, or they can be hung up like the corn and hung up outside, like in the bags, in the covered area. Um, let's see. Drying seeds prepares them for storage, and we have things other than just letting them dry out that can help with that process. We have here, you can use rice or charcoal, which shows the seeds in the bags, over dry rice or charcoal. Fans can help out, and so can silica beads. It's important that the seeds, when drying, that they stay out of direct sunlight and away from fluctuating temperatures, that they're dried in a shaded, ventilated space. And it's important that these aren't heated up. There's some seed drying cabinets that do use heat, but it's a low heat. There's people who make their own drying cabinets, which can get hot. Having the seeds dry in the heat could reduce their germination. Their can dry up a little bit too much as well, which can kill the seeds. And then how do we know that they're dry? There's a couple tests that we can use. We have the salt test, where you take a small sample of the seeds and you put them in a container with salt. You let them sit for 15 minutes and you shake the container. The salt that sticks on the outside of the container and on the seeds indicates that they're too wet. And if the salt falls down with the seeds, it shows that the seeds are dry enough. There's also the smash and shatter test. That's done for the hard seed, the round, hard, small seeds. So beans and peas. Um, you take a test seed and you hit it with something like a hammer, and dry seeds will shatter. Wet seeds will kind of smash or smear. So that's also a good indication that the seeds are not quite dry enough for storage. We can also use different methods for flatter seeds. One's a bend test. So you take the seeds like squash seeds and you would try to bend it as much as you can. Dry seeds will snap in half and wet seeds will fold and bend. We can use other methods of detecting the moisture or the relative humidity around the seeds. Silica beads, indicator beads, will change colors if there's a high moisture around the seeds. The mini hygrometers, thermometers can be used. They're relatively inexpensive, but they are inaccurate. There are more accurate devices, but they're a bit more costly. Another indicator that can be used is humidity paper. So they've got cards and papers that you can put in with the seeds that will show you on a color-based scale what the relative humidity around the seeds is. Oh, I also forgot to mention that when drying seeds, you'll want to dry them for 3 or more weeks out in those shaded, cool, and or stable aerated spaces. So if also you have pest problems in your seeds, or if you know that there tends to be some bugs that pop up, once the seeds are dry, they can be frozen for 2 to 3 weeks um, to make sure that those bugs are killed. Beans will often get beetles and weevils in them, and we've had that before where we have dried seeds on the seed racks and we come back later to see they've had little weevils pop out of them. But this can only be done when the seeds are completely dry. And so ensuring that they stay dry, we can put them in airtight containers rather than keeping them in the open with room temperature and varying humidities. That'll keep all of that out along with pests. Take care with temperature changes. So moving seeds from cold or to more humid environments. We want to minimize that. Any changes, any shocks is bad for the seed. Dehumidifiers can also help with keeping the seeds dry when you store them. Seeds should be stored in dry, dark, cool, and safe conditions. And to see as very little temperature change as possible. It needs to be dark so that the seeds are out of direct sunlight and minimize their exposure to light. Um, they need to be excluded from any fluctuations in humidity. Excess moisture can mold and rot the seeds. So, seed storage. So, storing seeds, we want to make sure we maximize the longevity of the seeds. So when storing seeds in good conditions, we want to slow the metabolic processes and maximize the seed's longevity. Um, cool conditions can help with that. We start with good quality seeds, keeping them appropriately dry and away from any condensation, moisture, any additional introductions of that, keeping them as cold as possible. That also helps with their longevity. Minimize access to air. So any flow of too much air around the seeds can also age them. Minimizing the fluctuations and changes. So stable conditions are important as well. And excluding insects and rodents. So not only do the containers have to exclude the insects and rodents, but in case any get into your seed saving space, that needs to be well prepared to keep them out. Oops. There we go. So talking about seed longevity, what determines how long the seeds will live. When we store the seeds in optimal conditions, we want to see the longevity of the seeds stretched as far as we can. What determines that in the seeds is each different species is different. The initial seed quality, so the healthier the plant, the better the seeds, and the longer they'll stay in storage. The conditions that they're stored in, their seed moisture content, so how dry you got the seeds will affect also their longevity, and the storage temperatures. Every 1% reduction in the moisture content of the seeds or 10% reduction in relative humidity of where the seeds are stored will double the lifespan of the seeds. And every 5% or every 5 degrees Celsius drop in temperature, the seed lifespan will also double. A simplified rule for storing the seeds in the temperatures would be you want to store them in a temperature. If you take the temperature and sum it with the percent of the relative humidity, those conditions will be add up to less than 100. So degrees Fahrenheit. That's a good rule of thumb that you can follow for storage conditions for seeds. So we have here a seed storage life estimate. So with ideal conditions, the seeds stored around 45 Fahrenheit, less than 40% humidity. Different seeds will last different times in storage. We show here that carrots in those optimal conditions, the seeds could last 3 years with a good germination rate. Corn can be stored 2 years and still have a good germination rate. And tomatoes can be stored at 4 years. This right here comes from high mowing organic seeds. Oh, see if we can get the back line. 1 second. There we go. Um, some of the larger seed companies will have these based on their own data and information they have from their own seeds. Oh, a little bit about that. For native seed search, we store our seeds at about 39 degrees Fahrenheit for active collection seeds, which are the seeds that are moving in and out of the seed bank. For long-term storage, for seeds that are much older or which are saved for future grow outs and saved for future farmers for conservation purposes, we keep those stored at 0 degrees Fahrenheit and at 30% relative humidity for both of those. Not everybody can do controlled environments, but keeping them as cool and as dry and dark and safe as possible will extend the life of the seeds and storage containers. So for storage containers, we want to use what's available and best for the seeds. And also what's best for the situation that people are keeping seeds in. Some people don't have a lot of space. Plastic bags can work for that. Some people have plenty of space and plenty of seeds and want to use glass containers or larger containers like buckets. But for storing seeds, foil and metal containers can help keep temperatures even and steady. Ceramic and clay containers can help keep them cool and dry. Glass is airtight and can keep out any insects or any rodents, especially. And plastic is also affordable, but can be reused from other things like peanut butter jars or like mayonnaise jars. So any containers that keep them airtight and away from those humidity changes and pests can work. Also, when moving the containers, it's important that the seeds moving from different conditions of the cold in the freezer and in the cold room storage. They must be moved between them as little as possible, but also slowly raising the temperature of them. So if you're going from a cold freezing condition, the seeds have to move to a cold condition. So around that 40 degrees Fahrenheit so that they slowly acclimate. And then from that cold condition to room temperature condition and letting them slowly acclimate for roughly 8 hours when moving them. So an airtight container can help with that so that the seeds aren't introduced to any moisture. Another important part of seed keeping is labeling and documentation. It's very important to make sure that everything is labeled um, because things can be forgotten and things can be moved, and it's important we know what these seeds are, even if we think we can remember. So important information to keep on labels. You want to keep labels on the outside of containers as well as on the inside. The most important information is the crop type, the variety name, the year it was grown, and where it was grown. Um, when using different ways to write or print labels, it's important that ink labels are used only when printing. That's because the thermal paper um, will eventually fade or change colors, and you won't be able to read what was printed on that. And that happens over time, and that also happens through storage in different temperatures, like freezing and room temperature. They'll eventually change and fade. So ink labels only, or written or pencil, so that the labels won't fade. Additional information to keep on your labels with the seeds. Um, the date planted, date harvested. This can be important information for the harvest time for people who want to grow out the seeds. Initial germination rate of the seeds when putting them into storage on the card or the label. Um, that helps keep track of whether the germination is dropping for the seeds. And it's good to write down the initial quantity so you have a starting point for any seeds that are taken out so you know. Any identifier codes or inventory codes is also a good thing to put on the labels, and the shelf or bin location. That additional information can help when moving them around and returning them to the places that they need to go. Important information for any community seed bank or a seed hub. When taking in the seeds or when you have different varieties of seeds, it's important to get all and as much as information on them as possible. You want the seed origin, so the history of the seed, the crop type, the variety, and the year it was grown. We have two examples of information sheets. One of them is our native seed search, and another one is from OSA, Organic Seed Alliance. These can be helpful for having paper copies to look back on for all of the variety information. letting people know about the seeds, and also keeping track of the different varieties that you have. Um, the important information you want to keep for inventorying the seeds is the quantity on hand, so you know how much seeds you have. The germination rate, so when testing your germination for your seeds, maybe every year or every 2 years to make sure that they're still viable, you want to make sure you write down that germination rate, keeping track of that. Um, information on where it's stored. If you have a large amount of seeds and you have different shelves for different types of seeds, um, writing down where it's stored is also information you want to keep. Documenting and having document sheets help keep track of all the important information. Here's an example of some document sheets, some formats that can be used. The one on the left is one that we use for keeping track of the seeds we grow out in each season. So I've adjusted and simplified that to a sheet that could be used for keeping track of inventory of each. On the right, we have an example of what someone else had for theirs, their inventory information sheets, which shows the different crop types and how much of the seeds there are, and a little bit of a notes section. So for native seed search, we have a large collection of seeds. We use an online database called Curate. We have an SQL database. We keep track of everything through that, and we can pull different information. And an example of what the database looked like is on the left, the top photo, and the bottom right is the um, the front-facing part of that database, which is where staff would be navigating and looking at all of the different seeds that we have. And then we have seed, part of the seed stewardship of keeping a different array of seeds would be checking conditions regularly. So checking the seeds for signs of pests or any issues. And germination. Germination can help determine the health of the seeds. And we have some examples here. On the left, there's a couple from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, one of a germination soil test, and on the bottom, a humid container on like a little spongy paper for a germination test. On the right, we have two germination tests from Native Seed Search. We have just a little bit of water in one, and looking for the sprouting seeds. And on the bottom right is the picture of the paper towel test for the seeds. We use that regularly. Because we have so many seeds, we're probably testing about 30 varieties of seeds every week. So we're putting those in, and we use the chemical-free germination paper that you can see here. Also part of stewardship of your seeds is making sure that you're keeping some of them separate um, for inventory count errors purposes or crop failure purposes or um, risks of the seeds crossing. You have different um, uh, lots of seeds or different samples of seeds kept separately. So that helps with minimizing the risk of losing all the seeds that you have.
I think I'm not even sure he was married. He's got 3 kids now.
Let's see. Um, Keeping the seeds separate, it's a good idea to keep an original batch of the seeds, um, a batch of seeds that are going in and out, and a batch of seeds for future grow outs. Let's see. Oh, um, and that's the end of my presentation. Uh, does anybody have any questions?
Um, Thank you so much, Helena. That is amazing. And um, I don't know anyone who doesn't love Native Seed Search. You guys are just an amazing partner, group, and community, and just everything you do is just amazing. So thank you so much for that presentation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We have a couple questions. Let's see here. What is the black medium? And I'm assuming it's in that picture that you have up, being used for germination testing.
That picture is from Southern Seed Exposure or Seed Exchange, Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. Um, Oftentimes that's just a soil. So you can have some that are more like a coconut core or just those normal potting soils for germinating the seeds. Oh,
Okay, perfect. And then Sarah asked, can humidity paper be used more than once?
some of them can. I think some of them can't, or most of them can't. Um, I think the humidity cards can be used multiple times. My video turned off. There we go.
So if you had somebody that wanted to, kind of minimize a lot of inputs, like the paper, would you say the cards are the best option or the readers, or what would be the best option for multi-use?
For multi-use would be the small electronic indicators. They're relatively inexpensive and all you have to do is change the batteries and you can have multiple applications for them, putting them in the seeds to test the humidity, but also keeping them around the spaces that the seeds are in to keep track of the temperatures and the relative humidity.
Perfect. And then can you repeat the program you use for seed inventory?
Oh, what we used for seed inventory, we have an SQL database. Ours specifically is MySQL. It was custom made, our database, a number of years ago. So I'm not too sure of too much of the details, but we use that for keeping track of everything.
Okay, and you mentioned Curate as a program. What one does that do?
Um, I
No stress. I was just putting the pieces
oh
together.
yeah. Um, Curate is what we call the database. So the different programs that would run it, we have what we call dbeaver, which is how we access that database.
Perfect.
It's a manager software.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Lots of kudos. So it's really inspiring to see that.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, well, I will let you off the hot seat.